Firewood! I got some firewood. It's fresh, obviously, but it might be able to be burned by March, which is a nice thing to look at. Some spring heat right behind me. So Antlerstock just happened, and it was 2 days of festivities and learning and classes and all kinds of good stuff. We had great instructors. We had Brett McLeod from Paul Smith's College, who's a timber sports coach and a professor of forestry up there. He taught everyone about backyard forestry, which trees to select, safety with chainsaws, logging with horses. We brought down a tree. Well, we didn't. He brought down a tree with the Swedish method, which is a way to choose exactly where that tree is going to land and have it not fall until you are ready. He demonstrated that, and he brought down a cherry tree, which we then hauled with a horse named Steel, my friend Patty's horse Steel, a percheron. You may have seen Steel in some other videos. Steel got all harnessed up, and Patty talked about draft horses, and we loaded up this cherry, 2 big pieces of the trunk with a ton of horse up my little road right back there. And we brought this logs up to the front of the house, and he taught the safe way to turn into rounds and the smart way to split wood and the different axes you should use and what they're for, felling axes versus splitting axes. It was amazing. And he had his new book there, The Woodland Homestead, which you should all check out. And he signed copies and sold some books, and people got to ask questions and learn about chainsaws and safety, and it was fantastic. So thank you to Brett for that. During Antlerstock, I taught some classes as well, mostly based on livestock. I talked about goats for dairy and soap. I took people on tours of the farm and let them see the different animals and talk about what is and isn't good, lessons learned, things that I'm working on. There were pigs to meet in the woods. There was the horse to meet in the field. There was the flock of sheep. There were meat rabbits. There were chickens. There were talks on everything from backyard layers to taking a sheep, flipping it over. I flipped over my ram Monday and showed people how to inspect a sheep's hooves and check them out. We took some wool off of the wool sheep and turned it into yarn using a drop spindle after we cleaned it. So it was a lot of stuff happened. Tim, my friend Reverend Timothy Lake, he taught us folk songs from the agricultural history of America, Canada, and where else? America, Canada, and of course Europe. And so we learned some of their agrarian music, and he sent people home with music. I showed people fiddles and dulcimers and how to get started making music if you're so interested. And all of this, and here was the coolest part of the weekend, guys. At night, we all got back here at around 7 o'clock when it was dark, and during the weekend, people at Antlerstock carved pumpkins. And so people that carved pumpkins, we took all these jack-o'-lanterns and made a pathway in the dark of glowing jack-o'-lanterns to the campfire, and we sat around the campfire, and we had mason jars of hard cider with cinnamon sugar on the rim, which is also a great thing to do with pumpkin beer if you enjoy such libations. And we read out loud from a farm classic, which is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is something that is close to my heart. This is a New York State farm. This is a piece of New York State folklore, and we read the whole thing, the original Washington Irving story. We read the whole thing, and it was something you should do once in your life. Sit around a campfire and take turns reading from The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Now, I want to talk about some things that I'm really enjoying, and some of them came recommendations from you, and I am also going to pass along these recommendations to other viewers, and some of my recommendations. The first thing that was a recommendation to me, someone offered me this idea a couple of times, was to finally get a hold of H is for Hawk, which is by Helen MacDonald. This is a story about a woman who lives in Europe, in the UK, and her story of training and working with a goshawk. And it is really a memoir about herself and her life and the lessons and her relationship with her father, and it is beautiful, and I wish I could give a better review, but I'm still reading it. So I got a hold of it at Bat and Kill Books, and man, it's just kind of great that falconry is kind of coming out of the woods and being a little more well known. You guys know that I'm a falconer, and while this is about a captive bred goshawk, it still is beautiful to read about women and their birds. Another recommendation. I think this might be the one that will be the most popular with you guys. If you're not into comic books, which I don't assume many of you are, neither am I. I'm not a superhero person. However, this comic book series, Harrow County, is fantastic. It is about a small southern community in the post-Civil War, pre-Great Depression, and it is about a town that hung a witch, or a woman who they believed was a witch, and how this woman, while she was on being burned on a pyre, she basically cursed this town 18 years later. And this is a folk story made as a graphic novel, and it is absolutely stunning. It is a scary story made out to be, told in pictures, but it comes from the agrarian persuasion. The art is absolutely gorgeous. It's $3 an issue. It just came out, I think, this past year. I think we're on issue 6 or 7, and I can't recommend it enough. Grab a copy of Harrow County. You can get it online. You can get it from your local comic book store. You can get it from, I think, a whole like a collection, like an anthology is coming out very soon. So Harrow County. If you're not into comic books, but you like folklore and you like scary stories, it is October. Check it out. And the last thing I want to do is make a music recommendation. This album has been out for a long time, but some of you may not be familiar with it. This is Mermaid Avenue, which is Billy Bragg and Wilco. Now, if you don't know what the Mermaid Avenue collection is, it's a 2-disc collection, 2 CDs or a lot of MP3s or 2 vinyl sets. But so might be 4 albums altogether, 4 like LPs. And what it is they took Billy Bragg and Wilco, which are 2 amazing musicians to begin with, or artists. They took the songs of Woody Guthrie that were not published from his notebooks or ever created into music, and wrote music to it. And in the tradition of the amazing Woody Guthrie, they made these albums. And my favorite song is Remember the Mountain Bed. It's absolutely beautiful. It is, to hear it is to floor me. It's important to me personally. It's important to me, like, emotionally, and it's just one of the most beautiful songs. So, if you get a chance, if you look into if you want to give it a listen, I will put a link to that song in the description below, along with a link to where to get Harrow County, H is for Hawk, and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Thanks for watching, and I hope you're enjoying this October.